next generation firewall, that is also known as Cisco firewall. So before we learn about more about the firewall, let's understand what did the Cisco did before. So it's like what is a Cisco firepower devices. So it combines the security of an industry-leading network intrusion prevention system with the power to control access and everything. So basically, firewall, if you remember that it's like a stateful one, and it was supposed to be like until layer 4 protection, but now with this firewall, you can use this firewall until layer 7 protection, as well as the firewall can be used simultaneously as a routed mode or as a transparent mode. So basically, you have like 8 ports, for example. In that one, you want to use 4 ports as a routed mode. Yes, you can use, and you want to use as a 4 port as a transparent mode. Yes, you can use that one. So simultaneously, you can go ahead and use it at both routed mode as well as the transport mode simultaneously. And again, to detect the applications, users, and URL, these are the new things because whenever there is a network, you want to detect that who is the user. And once you detect the user, like we want to detect some applications, like you want to block the Facebook in your organization, yes, you can go ahead and detect those applications, block some URLs like gaming URLs or gambling URLs. If you want to block it, yes, you can do that one. So you do have a capability in the firepower services to configure policies at level 7, layer 7. All right, so system can be served as a switch routed mode. As I said, that can be used as a routed mode, or transparent mode means it's like a switch mode. And also you can do the NAT translation on the routed mode only. And the Cisco Firepower Management Center provides a centralized. Now, I do have an FTDs now. So you were asking the question, the same thing, like how to FMC will be integrated with this one. So FMC will be acting as a centralized database for this one now. Because if you have many devices, all the devices will be integrated with the FMC, and everything, all the configuration will be configured on the FMC. All the database will be hosted on the FMC, including your patches and everything. Policies, all the things will be hosted on the FMC. Even the integration of the Active Directory will be done on the FMC. But only the FMC will keep on sending the instructions that, okay, so these are the policies have been configured, you have to implement these and everything. That's it. So it is now, FMC is now acting as a centralized database for your firepower services. So this is the main thing, FMC. If you do not have FMC, then you are not able to configure those policies at layer 7. Now, manage device install on the network segment, monitor traffic for analysis. That means your managed services are the FTDs, or you can say sensors are the FTDs, which are the network segment the monitors. So they are the one who is going to monitor the traffic and everything. Whenever they receive the traffic, all the information will be sent to FMC. Now, devices in the inline deployment allow you to protect networks from the attack. So basically, if you run on the routed mode, also it's the same thing. Like whenever there is an attack happening, if you do have an intrusion policies in place, irrespective of the routed mode or the transparent mode, you are able to detect the attacks. So until and unless you have the intrusion policies being assigned to the any access policies, that's it, or the access rules, you are able to detect the attacks. But basically, when you see as a transparent mode, that is on the switch mode of the firepower, so it will be acting as a bump in a wire. So basically, you do have like the FTD here, which is running in the transparent mode. So you do not have any IP addresses on these interfaces. It's just like a bump in a wire, like a switch. It's like a switch in between, but it will scan the traffic. That's the only difference. It will scan and it will block the traffic. Now, whenever you
are the IPS, that's the IPS mode.
Yes. So whenever you run the FTD in the transparent mode, that becomes the next generation IPS. So next generation intrusion prevention system. We do also have the IDS, that is the intrusion detection system, which does not take any action. It will just only detect, but here it's a prevention system. So
All right.
that's a difference. So it
Question for
will,
you.
yeah, this can take an action over here.
I have a question.
Yes.
One of my projects at work.
Yep.
Okay. We currently have an IPS 1720s. Okay.
Okay.
That is hitting the end of life. Now I'm going to replace it with 2100. Okay. Which means we are running it in transparent mode. But now the IPS we currently have is a physical appliance. They want to replace it with virtual appliance.
Okay. Yeah, you can do that one.
What do I need to do? Do they have to provide me a VMware where it's
Yes.
going to be on, or
Absolutely.
is it going to be in the cloud?
How it can be in the cloud when you want to detect the traffic in your organization? So it should be on premises.
So I have to install it on the VMware on VMware or something.
It should be on the on premises.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you do
On-prem.
have an IPS system which is an hardware right now, and you want to
Yes.
replace this one as a virtual machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, the only thing is that it should be on the on premises because you want to detect the traffic on premises. So you need
Mm-hmm.
an like ESXi. On top of that ESXi, you will install the next generation IPS system. Now again,
Okay.
it's not only just you will be installing the NGIPS in that one. You have to make sure that whatever the link, this link, you have to make sure that that link is connected to this interface, whatever the interface, for example, gig 0/0. So you have to make sure that gig 0/0 is mapped to this physical link,
Mm-hmm.
and gig 01 is being mapped to this physical link.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not only that you, after installing the NGFS in the ESXi, doesn't mean that you are done. No, you have to make sure that you need to do some networking in that one. Doing so, you have to make sure that this physical is being mapped to the right interface.
So I have to work with the network engineers.
Absolutely. It's not only the network engineers, you have to work with the ESXi or the virtualization admin also.
That's good. This is
Yeah.
where
Because
I
whenever
need
you're
say it.
installing the virtual devices, your main thing will be that your virtual devices will be on the top of ESXi. This is your next generation IPS. And this ESXi is being installed in your top of your server as an operating system. So this is
Mm-hmm.
your server.
Mm-hmm.
Now the problem here is that now you want this NDRPS to be like a bump in your wire, like a physical hardware now. So you do have like
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, and 4 ports. So you will utilize these 2 ports, saying that this port should be a gig 0/0, and this is your physical link 1, this one. And then this is your physical link 2. You have to insert the physical link 2 into this adapter, and you have to map this one to gig 0/1. So in this
So
way,
so in this scenario, right?
yeah,
Which one is easier, replacing it with a physical device or replacing it with a virtual device?
the physical device is being replaced by the physical device. That's much easier. But
Yeah, that's
physical,
what I've been trying to tell my manager. She thinks it's easier if we replace it with virtual device. That way we don't have to
yeah. See, if you are replacing your physical
deal with
device into virtual device, then it's become little complicated because you have to take care of the networking. The only difference is that virtual NGIPS will cost you less money, physical will cost you more money. So it's not easy. If you are thinking that you want to just replace this IPS to your virtual IPS, it's not easy. Absolutely not easy. All right. So what you have to work on is that number one, you have to work with your virtualization, and number two, you have to work with your virtualization networking. Once you are done with these two things, then comes to your network engineering. That's where you will go ahead and configure your links and everything. With the integration with the FMC, then you will configure the policies, whatever you are required. It's a little complicated because here what's happening is that when you have a insert the physical link one in your adapter one, that adapter will be again mapped to the virtual switch, and from that virtual switch it will be mapped to your NGIPS gig 0/0. Again the link 2 comes in, again it will be mapped to the virtual switch. Within this virtual switch there will be a virtual port groups again, and again it will be matched to gig 0/1. So basically the same thing, such a simple thing. Now it will become like it is, the link is coming here. Once the link came in, it is been redirected to your server, and that top of your server you do have an ESXi. On top of that one you have NGIPS. Again this link is now mapped with your virtual switch. Inside this virtual switch you will have a virtual port that will be mapped to gig 0/0, and again gig 0/1 will be mapped to the port group and the virtual switch, again that will be mapped to the another adapter, and from there. So this is your, like, the traffic is coming in like this and going in like this, but previously with the physical device the traffic was going straight. But now you are redirecting traffic in this way because your NGIPS in the virtualization. So you're sending that traffic to this server, and again from the server you are returning that traffic after inspection or whatever, the scanning. The things become very complicated when you configure that one in the VSXi or the virtualization.
Yeah. I'll try to talk to her to get a vision.
You need a good knowledge about the virtualization in order to achieve that one. Especially if you are using the ESXi one, yes, you need a good knowledge about the virtualization networking, especially.
Because if we are replacing it with a physical device, it's plug and play.
Yeah, that's it.
All we have to do is take that one out, put in the cable to the interfaces, and configure.
Configuration will be backed up on the FMC. Everything will be backed up. So once you remove this one, you can say on the FMC, all the policies will be automatically created. It will be staying there. It will be not removed. The only thing is that remove this PC, assign the IP address, again integrate that IPS with the FMC, and just assign that policy to that device. That's it. All the things which you have configured in these policies, everything will be pushed back automatically. Nothing to be reconfigured.
All right, that's good. All right, let's continue.
Yeah, that's all. It becomes very complicated when you go with the virtualization. So that's what that is known as an inline mode, inline deployment. This is known as an inline deployment.
Is equal to inline mode?
Yeah, inline mode.
That's the bump in the wire.
Yes. So whenever there is a device which you want to replace, like a physical device, like a bump in the wire, you want to replace with the virtualization, things become complicated. Now, firepower system appliance, you do have two appliances every time. So one will be the FMC, which will be acting as a centralized database for you. Another one will be the FTDs, which are acting as a sensors for you, which will sense the traffic. Now, by default, the physical devices are fault tolerant. That means if they have any interface fault or the power fault, they do have a fault tolerance by default built in the application, both of them.
So the FTD is the firewall, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the FMC is the management device.
Management center. So FTD is the one who is going to receive the traffic. FMC just sends back the policies. Once it sends back the policy, FTD is the one who is going to implement, who is going to do the scanning, who is going to implement the policies and everything. FTD is the one.
We also have the FTD manager.
Yeah, FTD manager is a firepower device manager. It's like an, if you remember, there is an ASDM for ASA, right? For FTD, there is a firepower device manager.
Well, most people don't use it, right? They FMC.
Yeah, we will come back to that one, why we do not use the FDM later on. So those are the
Okay.
capabilities of the firepower systems. Now, as I said, firepower management centers provide the centralized database. We have discussed that one. And you see that in the firepower system, when you assign the policies like licenses, there are different licenses. Like for the URL category, you do have a different license. For the intrusion detection, you do have a license for that one. So I think there are 4 different licenses which you have to apply if in order to get the full capability of your firepower system. But basically, however, when you have all the license, then you can go ahead and configure your intrusion policy, file policy, malware policy, correlation
Why?
policies.
Sorry. Why 4 licenses?
Yeah, I think there one is for the URL detection, one is for the intrusion detection, one is for the threat detection.
And one is for IPS.
No, exactly not sure, but what is
Yeah, that
IPS? If you see the
IPS,
IPS, what we are
IPS
doing
has
in
its own different license too.
now, if you see what is IPS, in the IPS you are doing the intrusion detection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you are doing like blocking the URL category, blocking the malware, or blocking the file. All has been included in this one. All the 3 has been included in this one. There is also another 4th one, or I think there is only these 3. Exactly not sure, but these 3 are the ones which you will see. URL intrusion and so it doesn't matter if you are running the FTD in the routed mode or the inline mode. It depends. But if you have these policies, you can just configure these policies. Sorry, if you have these licenses, you can configure these policies. Right?
Okay.
Now, this allows you to monitor the information that your device report in relation to one another and to access and control overall activity. So basically, when FTD just sends you all the information, it sends the traffic and everything. When you have a good idea about what the traffic is, what is going on, then you can go ahead and create some specific policy saying that particular user should not be able to go to the Facebook. Like for example, one user is like always visiting like Facebook or Instagram, and you just check the when you check the report, this is a user which is using the high bandwidth. Because of this one, the services have been impacted. So what you can do, so for that particular user, you can just block the Facebook, or you can just block the Instagram, or instead of doing these two, you do not block anything, but you will implement the quality of service policy saying that whenever this user is trying to communicate on his mobile or whatever the network traffic is there, just reduce the bandwidth to 512 kb. That's it. So you can also do that one too. So instead of
Yeah,
blocking it,
that's
just
quality
reduce
of
the
service.
yeah, just reduce the bandwidth. That's it. So the user will be like, okay, when it will be open, and it will say, okay, just leave it. Now, key features of FMC: you can assign the license over there, integrate the policies, integrate your devices, and once you integrate the devices, you start collecting the network traffic statistics and everything. What you do, you will are able to display the events. So whenever there is a traffic connection, right, from the FTD, it doesn't matter what traffic connection is there. Whenever there is a connection initiated or being made, that's it. You will see everything on your event manager. So in the event connections, you will see what are the different connections have been made. Even if in your lab also, still you will see that there are so many connections already being made without even initiating the traffic. Because when you have your Windows PC or the Mac PC, they keep on continuously keep on communicating with the servers, respective servers, for their updates and update the firewall patches and everything. And you can also monitor the health and performance of your firepower services, which this is with respect to your FTDs or NGIPS. External notification and alerts. Yes, if you want a notification and alerts via email or via SMS, you can go ahead and configure on this one. You do have a capability to do the configuration on this one. And now correlation policy is indication of compromise. So whenever you implement your intrusion policies, automatically you will see that whenever the PC is being detected, the host is being detected, it will automatically show you the vulnerabilities. So what are the vulnerabilities of your Windows machine and everything? All the list will be shown to you. Now you can manage those patches, you can implement those patches, or you can tell to your system engineer saying that I found that some Windows machine does not have up-to-date patches. Can you please update those patches on the Windows machine? Yes, you can tell to your system engineer. But we cannot send the patches for the Windows from the FMC now. You have to say to your system engineer because they are the one who is going to control your internal PCs. Right, so whenever there is a threat form, you can go ahead and do the remediation features using the correlation one. So when we come to the policies, we will look into the correlation policy saying that whenever there is an attack detected or something has been detected, you will just stop that traffic and you will allow that PC to mitigate with some remediation server. So once that is being remediated, again you will allow access to your. If you remember in the PXD, that's what we have seen, right? Whenever the stealth watch has detected these, what do we say, like unusual behavior, it will say to the eye saying that I have detected some unusual behavior, and it will just go ahead and stop the access, restrict the access, and it will allow only access to the remediation server so that it can remediate itself and come back onto the network. You can do the same thing here by utilizing the correlation policies. You can do the same thing over here. Exactly. Now, Cisco ASA with firepower, yes, where you do, if you do have the 5512X model, 5515X model, 16X and 25X model or 85X model, you can go ahead and add up the firepower services to this one. So whenever you add these firepower licenses to your ASA and you boot up in the mode of the firepower, that's it. You can now your ASA is now acting as the FTD now. Now FTD doesn't mean that it's totally FTD. No, it does have some limitation on the ASA with firepower, but it what are the capabilities, whatever the configuration you want to configure with respect to the FTD from the FMC, everything can be sent to your ASA with firepower.
So I have a question.
Yes.
That means if I have ASA today and I want firepower to FMC to be able to manage it,
Yes.
that means I have to upgrade my license.
Yes.
It's not free.
No.
Man,
why would any company would give you a free upgrade when you can utilize like sort of
so what we are not trying to get more functionality. We just want FMC to be able to manage our ASA. So we need a new license on the ASA because that ASA has to be upgraded to ASA with firepower, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So because of that, we have to go back to Cisco and upgrade our license.
Yes. Once you upgrade the license, then only all the capabilities of the FTDs you can get it on the ASA. There are certain limitations which we will look later on, but
without that, there is no way we can manage our ASA with our FMC.
Now, it's a firepower services. So if you have a firepower license, then only you are able to manage with the FMC. So normal ASA you cannot integrate with the FMC.
So we have like 20. We have like 8 ASA.
Yeah.
That is not currently centrally managed.
Yes.
What's my option to centrally manage those ASA if we don't want to buy new license?
That's with respect to your normal traditional ASAs. Okay.
So we have to use the ASA.
Okay. With the normal ASAs, what you can do is that you can use the ASDM, traditional firewall. But again, with the ASDM, if you remember that you will have the bookmarks over here saying that you do have so many firewalls, and you have to click on each and every one to just shift from one and another. So ASDM is like an application which will provide you to connect all the ASs at one place. But again, if you want to configure anything, you have to go to the individual routers, individual firewalls.
Right.
That's the only way to manage. But with the
and ASDM require license as well.
No, because you already by default it will be the application will be installed on the ASA, and your ASA will be registered with your license on your account. It doesn't require any license. No.
So,
for the
so all I
application.
have to do is download the ASDM application.
Now, nothing to download. We just need to make sure that your version is more than 9.2, higher than 9.2. If you're running your ASA version 9.2 or above that one, just do this command http server enable and http any traffic coming from any subnet to with subnet mask on the management interface, because that's where you will. Now, whatever be the management IP address, just go to https your management IP address. So once you enter this one, it will ask you with two options: one to download with your ASDM application. Another one, before you download the ASDM application, it will also give you option to update your Java. So first update your Java application, then download the ASDM and install the ASDM.
All right, let me write down the command, please.
Yeah, sure.
When I
HTTP
log into my ASA, I run the command http
server
server
enable.
enable. Yeah.
Then again, you have to specify HTTP. If you want to specify that only specific subnet, for example, 10.1.1.0, this is the subnet and this is the subnet mask.
What is the 10.1.1.0? That's the management IP of the AS.
Yeah, that should be management subnet. You are just saying that only allow management subnet on the management interface. That's it. No other subnet should be allowed. For example, if the traffic is trying to communicate on the management interface, you do have a routing in place, but the traffic is coming from 20.1.1.0 subnet, that should be blocked. You don't want, because that's the access to the ASDM where you are centrally managing all the ASAs, and you don't want any other subnet to communicate with your management interface. Only the management subnet should be able to communicate.
So that means I have to sit on that network to be able to
That doesn't matter.
access it.
Yes, you should be sitting on that network, yes, because it will only allow connection from that particular subnet. That's it. And that is the recommended one. If you want to allow any subnet, then you can say that 00. That means any subnet with subnet mask can communicate with your ASDM.
So if I want to allow certain IP, can I define the IP range?
No, I think no. Just define the subnet. That's it.
Let's say the IP. Let's say the IP address.
If you are good with subnetting, you can say that, okay, instead of 10.1.1.0/24, if you're good with subnetting, go ahead and do like 21, go ahead and do like 16. Just define the subnet mask. It all depends on the subnet mask.
Okay.
If we define the subnet mask, that's it. Depending on that one, that many IPs will be allowed. It will automatically detect that one, okay, this is the subnet mask /16 means, then I can go ahead with 10.1.2.0, 3.0, 4.0, everything until 255 /16. So it depends on your subnet mask, what you are allowing. So /24 means first the octets will be the same, should be matching. The last one can be the host IP address. All good?
Yeah.
All right, let's move forward now. Now, limitation, as I said, that whenever you are upgrading the ASA, normal traditional ASA, to the firepower services, what you cannot do on that one. So that does not support hardware-based features. So we will come back to that one later. Hardware-based feature does not support the high availability. Stacking means just making sure that making a bunch of ASAs to look like synchronized together. You cannot do the routing also, cannot do the VPN and the NAT and so on. So basically, even if you upgrade to the firepower, it doesn't make sense when you do not do the VPN, you cannot do the NATing, right? And the routing too. So that's what I got it from the Cisco website, that it does not support. So however, it's like they are like forcing you that, okay, if you want to upgrade your ASA to firepower, yes, you can upgrade, but you can just use like a traditional firewall. But only difference will be that you are able to get the capabilities of layer 7, like implementing the policies such as detecting the URL categories, detecting the applications, detecting the malwares and all those things. But you cannot do the VPN, you cannot do the NAT, or you cannot do the routing. That's strange, right? So these are the limitations, but again, follow the latest one. I don't know which version I am following this one exactly. But I also have recently done my research, so it's a recent one only. But again, whenever before you configure anything or upgrade anything, make sure you understand the limitation of those upgrades. Now, however, the ASA platform does not provide these features, which you can configure using the ASA CLI ASDM. So you are not able to configure via FMC, but you are able to configure these things using your ASDM or CLI. Got your answer now?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. It's a little complicated one. How it's like if you want to configure anything with respect to the until layer 4, everything should be done in the ASDM or the CLI. But if you want to configure anything with respect to layer 7, then you can go ahead and configure using FMC. That's what they want to say.
Oh, so after integrating your ASA with fire
FMC,
and now you sorry, are you talking about ASDM or FMC?
both of them. I'm talking with respect to the traditional firewall, which you have added the firepower services. So if you want to
Mm-hmm.
configure your routing, if you want to configure your VPN, if you want to configure your NAT, you have to configure via ASDM or CLI. But if you
Okay.
want to configure your access list or policies, you or like the URL categories and everything, you can go ahead and configure on the FMC. So basically, only policies you can configure on the FMC. Apart from that, everything should be done on the CLI or ASDM. Now, Firepower Management Center does not display ASA interfaces again. You are not able to configure interfaces too. So interfaces also should be configured via ASDM or CLI. You cannot use the Firepower Management Center to shut down or restart otherwise ASA process. No, you cannot initiate any command from the FMC saying that this ASA should be restarted or shut down or rebooted. Nothing you can do. It's only the policies I can see as far as according to this limitation. It's like only the policies you can configure on the FMC and just push it to the, and again, even though if you upgrade to the firepower, still you are managing via ASDM centrally. If you want to manage, you are managing via ASDM still the old time, old way of managing. That's it. Nothing new. It's only the policies you are configuring. That's the only capability you're getting. Any questions with limitation of ASS with firepower?
Oh,
Yeah, I know it's a little bit complicated, but it's a company, so they are forcing you to purchase the FTD instead of going with the ASA with firepower.
no, don't worry. By the time I tell them they need a new license, they're gonna run. They don't want to spend money. They don't like to hear new license.
Yeah. All right. So that was the limitation. Let's now discuss about the threat Cisco firepower threat defense, which is also known as a FTD. Now, how it has been involved, like Cisco came up with the PIX first. The firewall name was PIX. Then again, they produced the ASL. So once they came up with the ASL, later on in the future, they acquired SourceFire again, the company which is responsible for the firepower today, SourceFire. They acquired that company and that produced, after acquiring, they produced the firepower services. So first it was the PIX, Cisco owned, ASA, Cisco owned. Then again, they hired the SourceFire. Once they got the SourceFire, they now developed the firepower services. Now, this SourceFire was like expert in detecting the layer 7. So if you remember, that's the intrusion prevention systems. IPS system. It was very much good in making IPS systems, a better software of that one. So that's why Cisco acquired that one and configured it to as a firepower, started advertising that one as a firepower. Now, firepower services on ASA was offering a lot of security features and helped to fill the gap with ASA, but it was running as a two separate instance, as we discussed. If you want to configure the layer 7, it should be like an FMC. If you want to configure the up to layer 4, then it should be ASDL or CLI. So it's like a two different applications which you are using in order to accomplish that one, the whole FTD one. So that's why that is the ASA with firepower. Now Cisco has produced the FTD. That's why they came to know that okay, if we upgrade the ASA with firepower, they have to use two different applications, and we don't want that one. So they developed the FTD, which can be totally managed by the FMC, completely managed by the FMC now. That's where they have keep developing the Cisco firepower threat defense now. Now that it is designed to do what ASA and firepower service can do together. So firepower services was the intrusion prevention system, and the ASA was the stateful firewall, which was doing the security until layers 4, but it was doing the layer security for layer 7. Now they done everything in one box. That is layer 1 to layer 7, everything can be configured on the FTD now. So both the features are now be totally been included in one box, and this box can be only managed by the FMC, or if you are running in the CLI mode, then it can be managed via FDM, Firepower Device Management. Now Cisco FTD can offer a traditional ASA firepower services plus NG IPS features, URL filtering and everything. Now traditional ASA means what is the architecture of the FTD now? So basically on the FTD you do have a, let me remove this one first. Oh, come on now. So understand the architecture now. So when you have the FTD, the first operating system will be the Linux operating system. So this will be an open source one. On top of that, there will be one more operating system, that is FXOS, and there will be an operating system ASA, and top of that it will be running the FTD. Now we will come back to this one again later on, but again I'm trying to make you understand that whenever you boot the device and you want to run it in the CLI mode, then you can run it on the FXOS mode or the ASA mode. We will come back to that one later on. But if you want to run your box in the application or platform mode, firepower platform mode, that's where your FTD will start booting up. So this is the architecture of the FTD. These are the different operating systems you will have in your FTD by default. So depending upon the mode of operation, you can go ahead and do the configuration or use your FTD. So we'll come back to this one later on in detail soon. Now, FTD, yes.
Did you check the time? We've passed the time.
Yeah, just give me 5 minutes. Hopefully, I will try to finish up. 5-10 minutes. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. With the firepower models, again, we do have 1000 model, 21, 31, and 41, 93. Now, these are for the small and home, so don't worry about this one. Small and the medium size. If your organization is a small or medium size, go ahead with 2100 or 3100. And if it's your large or data centers, you go ahead with these two models. Now, these two models, I think these are the modular ones. So, modular form means you are able to expand the hardware. So whatever the device which is able to expand the hardware, like you can insert extra ports in that one or insert extra SSIDs, anything. Expansion of hardware, that is known as a modular chassis. The modular chassis is only for the higher levels. It's only for the large enterprise and the data center enterprise. But these are the fixed ones. So whatever the ports you do have, those are the fixed ports. You cannot increase any ports on that one. Okay, so accordingly you have to select the models in this one. Now FXOS operating system, I told you that whenever there is an FTD, you will have a Linux first, then you will have an FXOS, then you will have an ASA, then you will have an FTD. So whenever you are running in the appliance mode, That means you are running in the ASA mode. So basically, first you boot up the FTD, you will come into FXOS operating system. So this operating system will allow you to do the same operations like the ASA. So you can configure the interfaces, you can configure the chassis. That means hardware related. You can do anything with related to the hardware. So if you want to check what is the output, throughput, and all the things, whether the interface is up or down, related to the hardware, you can check it on the FXOS operating system. But if you want to do any configuration, then you can, whenever you are on the FXOS operating system, just enter the command connect ASA, and it will automatically connect to the ASA. So now this is where you will use your FTD as an ASA now. So when you are using your FTD as an ASA, that means only level 4 protection. You are not able to utilize until level 7. It totally depends upon you if you want to run on this mode. So if you want to run on the platform mode, this is where it will automatically boot it to FTD now. So whenever you are installing the FTD, I will show you that I want to manage this FTD using the FMC. If you say this command, that's it, it will run on the platform mode. Once it runs on the platform mode, that's where you are able to configure, integrate with the FMC, configure the policies at layer 7. So these are the two different things you have to be careful when applying for the appliance mode or the platform mode. Good with that? FXOS operating
Yes.
system architecture.
Yes.
So any questions?
No question, please.